Squatchdtv, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatchdtv. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatchdtv for today's date, October 20th, 2024. I am your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Good to see you, Steve. What a great date we have today.
Sure is.
20th. Man.
Sure is.
57 years. Can you believe it?
Yes, I can.
Well, I hope everything's going for you good in New York. We're still getting some cool weather here, and I'm feeling it. I am feeling it in my bones. The nice, cool, damp weather.
We've had beautiful weather. So, and it's nice to know I just added a new event for next Saturday. There was a dropout, and one of my buddies was like, hey, you want to talk? You want to, give you a chance to sell some more books, do whatever you need to do, set up a little. Sure. So off I go this Saturday to the Detroit Public Library to the Collar City Paracon. So
very cool.
So it'll be a good time there. Yep.
Very good. I looked up on the WBKO TV, our local television station, which they're an ABC affiliate, and they covered the story about the Park City Bigfoot Festival, and that's going to be a thing. I think this was the first one annually. They're going to have it every year, I think. So hopefully that it did good, and hopefully it'll do good next year.
Well, I am going to reach out to the Park City Bigfoot Festival and see if
Man, I wish you would. I mean, they had Adam Davies and Amy Bew was also there.
Yep.
Had I not had other obligations, I would have went.
But, I know you were gonna. Yeah, if you didn't have any obligations, I was actually going to drive down and hang out with you for the day.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. But
we've always got next year, hopefully, knock on wood.
That's right. Hang on, knock on wood.
Yeah.
There we go. So anyway, we got one hell of a show tonight. We're going to be looking at some things and having a great discussion. But before we start tonight, I want to thank Jay Carey for becoming a new member, and thank you. Remember, becoming a member here supports good and honest Sasquatch research. Of course, we are out and about all the time. Not so much during the winter and the very heated summer, but so we got still a couple of months yet to tromp around the woods before it starts getting a bit nasty. So,
welcome aboard the good ship Squatchdtv.
And like I said, I'm still unpacking video. You would not believe, when I record these off my phone, it just takes so long to get them over. So I'm looking for a better delivery system. Starting next year, I'm looking for a better delivery system so I can transfer video a lot quicker. And I do have something in mind. So
I had looked into those, and a lot of people like these, what are they called? The little action cams. I can't remember, GoPros.
Yeah.
A lot of people like those.
That's exactly what I'm looking at, actually. Yeah. And they have an attachment that I can put my wireless mics on already.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking at right now.
I looked at them too, but
yeah. It's not
expensive.
Yeah, but once the thermal imager or the my latest my thermal scope gets paid off, that'll probably be my next investment. So, and of course, we do that thanks to you guys on the members page and for all the viewers that come in here and watch the show. But the members are really the big help there, and we appreciate y'all so much. Anyway, let's get down to business. First in tonight, my buddy Patrick Collins. What's going on, Patrick? Pete H. Hello, Pete. Good to see you, sir. Danny Weeks. How are you? Karen Fisher. Good to see you. Sharon. Again, she popped in to say, have a great show. She'll catch us on the flip. Don Come Out Jr. Good to see you, Don. Mick is in the house.
Good to see you. Oh, apologies in advance. Steve, I consider valid, verifiable, and crucial evidence supporting the existence of Sasquatch. Amen, Mick. That's great.
Amen. Again, Jay Carey in the house. And he says, been a while. Elk season's finally over with. Miss the company.
We missed you, Jay.
Traveling with Jim. Good to see you. Hello. Good to see you, Ristel. Piper, how are you? Boris Khan. Good to see you, sir.
Boris?
Karen Fisher. Hello, Karen.
Again, Karen.
Roy Longley. Good to see you, sir. Welcome back.
Amen.
Hey, now as we're getting down the list.
Yeah, I'm lost. Oh, I'm halfway through and I'm lost.
Up the Susie Monster in the house. Hello, Susie. Good to see you. Ron Bowles hit you. Ron Bowles.
Hey,
how are you, my brother?
Good to see you, Ron.
Good to see you too, Ron. Jen is in the house too. Hello, Jen. Good to see you. Smedley Do Right. Hello, Smedley. Oh, okay. Jen throws a little suggestion. If I checked out Lazy Cowboy channel, he's doing some good stuff. We'll take
check that out.
Well, check it out. Kaiju Ninja 1985. Hello to you, sir.
Kaiju Ninja. Welcome. What was that guy's name?
Jeremiah from the Bigfoot Society. Enrico Palazzo.
Jeremiah.
He saved the queen. Sharon is here. Good to see you. Professor, how are you, Professor? Kevin Arter in the house. Damn, Mrs. Trackway, hello.
Mrs. Trackway, hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Brent, the tall ones, is in the house. Hello, Brent. Good to see you. So we got a big room tonight. So let's,
Lazy Cowboy. Okay, I've got that written down. I'll check out his channel right a while.
So, we want to talk about the Patterson Gimlin film at 57 years. That has been the long-standing benchmark film.
Right.
And
yet to be debunked.
Yet to be debunked. Right. Well, although people say it's been debunked. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, too. And we're not going to deal with any of the massacre nonsense or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Different subject.
Right. We beat that dead horse to a pulp, bloody pulp at that. So, tonight I really want to focus on, some of the facts. And, one of the things we have, this is the actual weather data from the area at the time. And we know that sunrise was at 7:34, sunset was at 6:29, civil twilight began about 22 minutes before the actual sunrise, and a little bit after, almost till 7 o'clock, where you got to civil twilight. And then we have the nautical, astronomical, and the moon was a waning gibbous. So now let's look at the temperature data. The high of the day was 55 degrees, and the low was 46 degrees. So as you can see, there was
not too bad, just enough for a fire, but
right. So there we have some of the weather data there, all consistent with what we were seeing on the film for that.
Jay Fritz, wow. Jay Fritz gifted five memberships. Thank you, Jay.
Why, thank you, Jay. And Nikki's Nikki's in the house too.
Hey, Nikki.
And Jay snuck in late. Well, hello, Jay. Thank you again, brother. So,
Brian Wolf. Say Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. What's going on? Yes, we. A quick note to that. We. I just let me show this real quick. Hang on. Give me 1 second here. We want to acknowledge we want to acknowledge this, but
I'm gonna scroll back to that and make sure we didn't miss grasshopper.
but yes, we did. Today was our first episode on Wolf Rock Radio today, so that was awesome. And there is the actual player as we were getting the.
Ooh, that looks good.
Yep.
Well, except the fat guy with the leather jacket on the right. Everything else looked pretty good.
So there we go. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. And again, thank you, Brian, for having us on your channel. And
appreciate it.
We're going to have a lot of fun. So back to this Patterson Gimlin film. Let's do this. Let's take a look at the film itself. Now, and this is going to be the complete, we don't have him actually casting the prince. That was I believe that was the end of the reel, but this is all the pre-shots prior to the actual filming of the creature. So.
Right.
A little bit of B-roll going on here, I would suppose.
Yeah. From what I understand, this was supposed to be some B-roll footage they shot just prior to the incident. And, of course, Patterson was making a documentary.
Yep. He never did quite make the documentary after filming what he filmed.
Right. Well, yeah, things took a sharp turn.
Well, a lot of people say that Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot, the 1976 film, because by that time Roger Patterson had passed away. That was kind of the original movie Patterson was thinking about.
Yes, exactly.
So what's cool about this, it's showing you the kind of terrain that this occurs in.
Right.
Looks, fairly easy. I mean, you can hike in. They decided to pack in with horses, and that's fine. That's the way cowboys do it, I suppose. Now, sorry. Now, for those listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM, please, I apologize for the silence, but we're actually watching this film. So for those that are listening to the audio versions, you're going to want to come over eventually over to youtube.com/@Squatchdtv and check out the videos we have running and the slides we have running today, because they're very, very pertinent to our tonight's discussion. And just very dense forest. So we should be getting very close to where we actually okay, yeah. So some of this filming was done in August, and like we say, this all didn't occur in Bluff Creek alone. Okay, and here we go with the original film. And of course, there it is with the famous film 352. Good afternoon, Arthur, or good evening to you, Arthur. Arthur Walk just came in, and John, Sasquatch Wizard Adirondacks, and the Batmom also showed up as well. And there we have, this is the part of the film that always fascinates me, is while it's walking away, like right in there. That always.
Right.
And there you have it.
And, the controversy started from the beginning. There was some controversy about Patterson's account, about his horse falling on him. And I guess, in Mr. Gimlin, Bob Gimlin's account was that, the horse maybe didn't necessarily go all the way down and trap Roger because Roger was very agile. And even, as the horse stumbled, Roger was hopping off of the horse. But there were a few negative comments about that, the difference in the stories. But it just depends on your point of view,
Okay. So hang on. I want to. So Smedley 2 writes, as recently I saw high quality face frame put out. You can see her pretty eyelashes. I think that's a little bit of a jab at MK because we all know that was an AI created.
There's only so much you can do with film and film grain, which that's good. The film grain is the grains are a lot smaller than pixels, so you could get a lot out of a film, but not that much. No.
Yeah.
No. Boris says there were like 57 ninja Sasquatches hiding in those trees.
Yeah. That's the other thing. There's been some really crazy things. Now, according to Brent, the tracks that sent Roger down there ended up being fake to begin with, but nonetheless, there was still a lot of sighting reports coming out of the area.
Right.
And not only did Roger get prints after the film, but Bob Titmus, I guess, got some later on as well.
Well, the trackway became like a popular run. I mean, most people were stopping by there even like 2 or 3 weeks later. So that trackway must have lasted a pretty good while. And I remember reading, they said it was the creek bed or the creek bottom there had like a blue clay type soil. So it preserved the tracks pretty well.
Yep. It was a sandbar too. So it was.
Yeah. So that was the thing. I always thought it was just the sandbar. And if you walk in sand, well, those tracks are not really well defined, unless it's damp, and then they go away rather quickly. But if where Patty was walking was also this bluish clay type soil, that would preserve tracks for a long time.
Yep. So okay, out of all the frames in that film, a lot of people talk about 352, where that's the famous frame where she kind of turns and looks
right,
towards Roger a little bit. But this, for me, has always been the real deal frame. That has always fascinated me with the toes being there.
We're not looking at cowboy boots or a tennis shoe. We're looking at a foot with toes on the end.
And, the funny thing is, does that look like a gorilla costume foot? No. No, the toes actually look rounded, quite natural.
Yeah. And if you'll notice, when you look at that foot, and then you picture some of the castings that were made from that trackway, it's a match. It is a match.
So hang on. Kaiju Ninja asked, "What about the Jerry Crew prints?" I believe the Jerry Crew prints were true as well. They look nothing like the Ray Wallace stompers, and we beat that one to a horse's death. I think there's a video on the channel about the Jerry Crew versus the Ray Wallace tracks. Chris, I'm going to show the video one more time, the complete video.
Yeah.
And if you want to just narrate it for a second, I need to get a couple of items that we're gonna have here, because I'm just thinking while we're talking tracks. So I'm going to show this one more time.
Sure. And Kaiju Ninja has a point. A lot of controversy about the Jerry Crew prints because that what's his face? I can't even think of his name now. He worked for Jerry Crew at the same time, the hoaxer guy. So that's the thing. Could that have started him hoaxing Wallace or whatever his name was? Yeah, I could have. But Now, supposedly part of what I've read here on this B-roll footage was that Bob Gimlin was shooting the B-roll footage. And Bob had never held a camera before. He was not a cameraman or familiar with making documentaries. So I suppose just under the instruction of Roger, Bob filmed him and tried to get, create whatever exactly he was looking for. But this is some of the iconic footage, though. The prior to the Patty sighting, where Patterson was leading a pack horse. And I do believe Steve called it correctly. He said earlier that the 1976 film titled Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot, I believe that was based off of Roger Patterson's original documentary ideas.
Yep. Yeah, this is, and of course, some of this was shot, previous to their October expedition, as John Green had said that some of this was actually filmed in August. But I'm not so sure about that, because look at the leaves turning.
Well,
So
there was part of the B-roll that was filmed directly before their encounter. That's why Patterson did not have very much film on that roll.
Right.
He had like 28 feet because the prior was shot with this B-roll. And I'm not certain exactly which scenes, but I think it was the one where he was on horseback coming down, leading the pack horse down the mountainside there, or the hillside. I think that was the one where it was shot just prior to the sighting. But if somebody out there, if somebody's in the chat that knows better, please let me know.
Now, how people, would imagine, oh, there's another Squatch in the background. How anybody would get that off of this film is,
I think a lot of it may be pareidolia.
Absolutely.
You're going to find what you're looking for, and if it's there or not. But who's to say there aren't other creatures over in those woods? There very well possibly could be, but none that we can see on film. And I'm a firm believer that these creatures they're not loners. I believe they live in family groups.
Right. So, now, if you're wondering why I'm kind of sitting the way I'm sitting, we're going to do a little show and tell here. So I'm going to, first of all, we're going to do this. If we can. All right. So here we are. So just
gonna... much better.
So actually, here we have the actual casting of the print. And I'm sorry about the glare of the screen. Not much I can do about that. But
yeah.
And if you look at it, it happens to have. It actually happens to have a Morton's toe, where the second toe is just a little bit bigger than the first toe. Something we see very common in Sasquatch, actually. All right, so we'll get that. And the reason why I want to point that out is because, and I don't really show this too often online, but this is the Ford Ancast, and this clearly had a Morton's toe as well.
Right.
Yeah, the big toe being here. And actually, I think this is actually the third toe, which is even weirder. But according to Dr. Meldrum, that as well, as you can see, that one has a slight mid-tarsal break in it as well.
Right. Yeah. What was the measurement on that on the Patterson Gimlin cast? Was it 14?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is 14.5. I think it.
Yeah, that was one of the reproductions done by Dr. Jeff Meldrum off the scan of the actual print too.
Right.
So
Can't get any more accurate than that.
right.
But yeah, if you look at that foot there, that matches up really well with what we were looking at in the cast. The toes, everything.
And you know, the beautiful thing is now we have this lovely 4K stabilized version that Bill Munns had done, where he had, you know, he layered several generations of copies together. Here we are. We'll take a look at that one real quick. And there is the stabilized 4K version.
Right.
And, you know, and let me, we're going to look at this one more time. But, you know, there's something I noticed in this. If you watch, see the foot, the leg coming down.
Right.
Boom. Now watch. It's really prominent, right? That frame right there. Right. You see that muscle ripple. Yeah. That's not a suit. That's a muscle rippling. Right. And we see that when people are running, you see that ripple.
That thigh. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see the flex of the calf muscles too.
Right. Yeah, that's not a suit.
Very natural.
And now, yeah, a lot of credit goes to Bill Munns. Bill Munns has studied this film extensively, and I would say, I think I would be safe in saying he's probably the world's foremost authority on the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right. Well,
if you haven't visited his site, it's the Munns Report on the web. If you hadn't visited that, you need to, because it's got some good stuff on there.
Yeah. Now, in my latest book, The Psychology of Bigfoot, I actually have the incomplete timeline of the Patterson Gimlin film. And I don't want to give away too much, but if I can find it in the book, is, you know how, you know, I wrote this, but you quickly, you know, when you write several hundred pages of material.
Yeah, trying to go back and pinpoint the exact page and paragraph.
There it is, right there.
Right.
So, and then early afternoon, October 20th, Patterson and Gimlin are riding on horseback along the east bank of Bluff Creek, moving generally northeast, upstream. Between 1:15 and 1:40 p.m., Patterson and Gimlin come across an overturned tree with a large root system. They spot a figure behind the logjam or crow's nest left over from a flood. Initial encounter. Patterson spends about 20 seconds extricating himself from the saddle and getting his camera before running towards the figure. Gimlin crosses the creek on horseback as Patterson approaches the figure. Patterson runs after the creature while operating his camera. The figure walks away, and Patterson estimates he comes within 60 to 90 feet of it. The resulting film is about 59.5 seconds long, showing the creature walking, glancing over its shoulder at the men. Aftermath of the encounter. Gimlin follows the creature on horseback until it disappears around a bend in the road. Patterson and Gimlin round up their horses, which had run off downstream before the filming began. Patterson films the tracks left by the creature and makes plaster casts of the footprints. Patterson and Gimlin meet Al Hodgen at his variety store in Willow Creek. Evening of October 20, 1967, Patterson intends to drive to Eureka to ship his film. Patterson calls Al Delatly to expect the film he is shipping. And then return to camp. Patterson and Gimlin return to their campsite 3 miles south. They measure the creature's step length and make plaster casts of the footprints. Late evening, October 20, 1967, Patterson calls a Daily Times Standard newspaper in Eureka and shares his story. Patterson and Gimlin arrive back at their campsite about midnight. Morning of October 21, 1967, Gimlin returns to the film site from the camp to cover the other prints with bark. So that is, you know.
Yeah, I think he told us that on the show too. I think.
Right. Yep. Yep. So, yep. So
He'd been looking for boxes at Al Diatley's store, and he got some boxes or something, and then but he didn't have enough or something. He covered up the prints with bark so they wouldn't get rained out, which was great thinking on Bob Gimlin's part, trying to preserve that evidence best he could. But it was
there we are. Jay Carey says, like, yeah, because I wasn't sure what particular, because it's the West Coast. I know trees don't normally start turning until September, and usually it's about mid-September they start turning here, and usually by the first week of October we're in, the first week of October we're in peak foliage, and like right now, peak foliage is over with, and we're starting to see a lot of leaves on the ground. So, and that's because it's been, up until last week, it was pretty warm. It was really seasonable. So, and hey, Flu Tang, what's going on?
Flu Tang. Well,
right.
And I was trying to think of Ray Wallace's name earlier. Ray Wallace. He worked for Jerry Crew at the time that they were having those incidents occurred. So people kind of speculate that it was probably Ray Wallace doing all that. But I believe possibly that's where Ray Wallace got the idea to start trying to pull people's legs.
Well,
his stompers didn't look anything like what.
I really think Jerry Crew got, or Ray Wallace got the idea from Jerry Crew, when Jerry Crew came forward with these prints. I think he decided he was going to create some stompers and run around, because nobody can date the stompers. It wasn't like I created them on something. I mean, they found them. It wasn't even necessarily. It was a surprise to the family when they found them. Yeah. So of course, when you go to that false assumption that, but let's take a look at this. So there is our driving route. Kind of shows, and everything seems to be within order there. I've looked at it numerous times because, again, I was, you have to be skeptical. You have to investigate all the aspects of this.
Yeah.
And there are some more dubious aspects, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but it has nothing to do with the storyline here. And as a matter of fact, I think this is one of the few cases you ever have where you have so much detail about what happens. We know the time, we know the date, we know the where, we know the who, we know who the secondary players were involved with. Good God, we know more information about this than anybody else. And the fact is, any other case itself. And the fact is, you don't see that normally in a hoax.
No.
You don't get the who, what, when, where, and why. You get bits and pieces and dribs and drabs. But from the get-go, this was very concise of what the actual schedule of events were, and has remained relatively consistent. Yeah. And, that is the amazing part, because, as a trained interviewer and an interrogator, I know that the things that can change the most are time, distance, and weight, height, stuff like that. Anything that has a definitive measurement, people, it's hard for people to keep those exact figures in their head. But generally, as far as time, everybody knows, okay, at this time we did this, at that time we did that, and it was all pretty consistent over the years. Right. The only, like I said, the only dubious thing there was the conflict between Roger and Bob about the horse coming down on Roger. Now,
that could have been a point of view issue, though, not rather inconsistent question about the events happening, because Roger was a rodeo guy, and he knew his way around horses.
Yep. Kaiju Ninja 1985 asks, Stephen Chris, do you think there was more than one Bigfoot around during the filming of Patty? There may have been, but they only reported seeing one. You have to go with the people that were there. They only reported seeing one. They didn't see two or three or four.
Right.
So any of this, if there's more than one Bigfoot, it's just mere conjecture. The witnesses who were there said there was one. And that's what you have to go with.
Right.
Anything else is just purely conjecture.
Speculative. Yeah. We could speculate that, personally, I believe these creatures live in family groups. So I think it's highly likely that Patty was not the only individual in the area. But from what we can see in the film, she's the only one we can obviously see walking around.
Right. And certainly Roger and Bob didn't see any other one but Patty.
Right. They were concerned, though. There was concern. That's why, this, as the story goes, they were a little bit upset about what had just happened, and they were a little bit fearful of what would happen if they chased the creature or followed the creature through the woods, because they would do, either run up on other ones, other creatures, or they would cause a reaction from that creature that would force, them to defend themselves. And that was the great thing about Roger and Bob. They had agreed beforehand that at no time, they had a rifle, okay, they had protection, but they agreed that beforehand that at no time would they attempt to shoot one of these creatures. They would only use that rifle in self-defense. And so the opinion was, if they followed it, tracked it up into the woods, that could force a self-defense situation that they didn't want to do. But, one of the things that I've really respected about this encounter is that over the years, Bob Gimlin has remained accurate to what the account of events. Now, he may have had a different opinion about some of the things that happened, but as far as the account of events, has remained accurate.
So Danny Weeks says it didn't look like Patty was hoofing it too fast. Actually, in the original film, it does. She's taking off. She's moving fast. Right.
This version is slowed down a little bit.
Right. The stabilized version is much slower than what you're saying. It's slowed, it's stabilized, it's zoomed, and it's enhanced. So, but it was enhanced photographically or film wise, not by artificial intelligence or any nonsense like that.
Let's see. I'm going off the top of my head now, so I believe it was the length between the tracks was 46.
Let me stop this right here and now. I heard theories potty. Okay. Theories are crazy, and that's why she didn't run faster. Let me ask you a question. How many sighting reports are there where the Bigfoot doesn't run off, it just walks off? Right? Far closer distance as well than what remember Roger was 50 to 90 or 60 to 90 feet away. Right? Mine was probably 100 to 125 feet away, maybe 150 feet away. It walked off. It didn't run. Digger Dog, good to see you. So, it's not uncommon for a Bigfoot just to turn and walk away. It doesn't have to run. Why would it run? It doesn't have to.
Well, they do pass by. They do make up a lot of distance with a very few steps because their stride is a lot longer than what ours is. A lot longer.
Correct.
But at the corner where they were measuring the stride of the trackway. After Patty got around the corner, she started picking up speed because the tracks stretched out. The stride stretched to 65 inches between tracks. So that's a long step.
And that is correct, Crystal. Dr. Meldrum pointed out a bulge that had occurred when it made that one step. And he said it's a possible herniation going on in the thigh muscle. So, yes. And that's what a hernia looks like a round bulge. Anybody has seen a hernia before? I've seen plenty of them as a paramedic. So that's what a herniation looks like. So even even that particular feature looks consistent with natural anatomy. But yeah, let's think of this, folks. Let's not make this more than what it is. That is where the Bigfoot community goes off the rails and makes us sound crazy, is when we start, maybe she was pregnant. Oh, maybe there was 5 more in that. We don't know any of that. Stick to the facts. Tom Steenberg, stick to the facts. We have one Bigfoot in the film. There's what we know. Let's leave it at that.
Her body build, Patty was pretty bulky, very muscular for a female. And I'm not saying, I've seen muscled up women too, but as a Sasquatch goes, she's pretty manly.
She ain't pretty.
And that may just be from the terrain where she was raised, her habitat.
Okay, let's click to the next one. All right, how about this?
Oh, let's see. Which one looks real, which one looks fake?
So, of course, what we're looking at, of course, on the left-hand side is Patty, and on the right-hand side, we are looking at the recreation that Philip Morris and Bob Heironimus tried.
Right.
Of course, the Snapple drinker on the West Coast there, named after the famous Italian cookies, did a whole film called Hoax of the Century. And it wasn't about the Bigfoot body. It was about the Patterson Gimlin film. So much for somebody saying, well, I first looked at the film. I saw it on John Carson, like it's Johnny Carson.
Wow. When I first saw the footage, the recreation with the Bob Heironimus in the Philip Morris suit, I just bust out laughing, man. It is hysterical.
Right.
It looks like a poor Halloween hoax. Okay. And this was the best they could come up with to match the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right.
Oh boy.
So I Brent, I appreciate what Morris said. I don't believe anything he says for a minute, because one of the several things is, according to Morris, Roger asked him to modify the costume. Where is the financial records of this? Because he ran a business. Where would be the records of Patterson, or the order form, or the money order, or the payment, or any of that? Which, according to Morris, well, I had to argue with it. I wasn't going to send the suit until he sent me that check for $1,000. Where did Roger have $1,000?
Yeah.
Right. He was dirt poor. Everybody, and this is what and we're going to talk about these cadences, because I'll show you what a hit piece does, and where, as an investigator, I can look at this and go, something just doesn't sound right here. And it has nothing to do with that. And according to Morris, it was a gorilla suit. And, here you have this thing, his best recreation. I mean, now he's got how many years ahead of him? He can't make a suit like that. And why does Bob Heironimus consistently, as well as his family, like his mother and his brother, his nephew, said the suit stunk because Bob Heironimus's story was it was made with horsehide?
Yes.
Right.
That was the first version.
Right.
Yeah. The first version of the story that Bob Heironimus gave was that Patterson had made the suit from old horse hides, and while he was wearing it, it was inside of it. It stunk.
Oh no, Brent. Heironimus. I'm sorry. No, Morris says the suit was $1,000 as well, and I just read that in an article tonight, and he wasn't right.
Bob Heironimus did claim, though, as a side note, he did claim he was supposedly supposed to be paid $1,000 for his appearance in the Bigfoot suit. That He would never would have paid, and that was the reason he went forward.
Yeah, but Brenton does make a great point too. That's $8,500 in today's money.
Right. Patterson didn't have that kind of money.
No, how would Patterson have almost 10 grand? And then, you're right. No, he wasn't even returning the camera that he was supposed to have returned.
He rented a film camera. Okay. So he did not have enough money to purchase and own his own film camera. He rented the camera. Now we go back to Long's book. Well, Patterson didn't return the camera. No, he did not. That's true. Was that honest? No, that's not an honest thing to do. But the problem was he filmed a Bigfoot with this camera, and he knew this camera was going to be scrutinized, and he had to keep it. He knew that. So I guess with working out with, if he had been made out of money, what would he have done? He would have just went down to the rental office, paid the guy for the camera.
Yeah. And Brett makes another great point too. We should have Brett on. Shoot. Why go to California to film a hoax when you had primary in Washington State?
Right.
And Bob Gimlin had to pay for the 2-week trip, which makes no sense that Roger was promising or trying to order a suit or anything like that. Now, let's kick into this. Let me read the article. Let me pull up the real the bigger article.
You can't really see it in the.
Well, no. I can read it fine. I'm just saying, you don't need to see the lawsuit. The lawsuit is basically simple. This is the double standard because they talk. When you have Greg Long and Joe Nickel, and I like Joe Nickel, but let's look at hit pieces. Right. And sometimes investigators get tunnel visioned. Right. And that's the problem with some skeptics. Greg Long did it as a journalist. Joe Nickel did it because he is tunnel visioned. And Cal Korff did it because he's an idiot and he wants to rise to, get his name in the paper. Remember Cal Korff, who wrote for the Center for Scientific Inquiry, claimed to have been, I'm a colonel in the Israeli Secret Services. And he would say that and he would wear this uniform. And it turns out that in actuality, when he got called onto the fence about it, it had no government affiliation. It basically was a security company. So he was a colonel in a security guard company.
He was just like the PhD chicken farmer.
Right, exactly. Right.
Oh, man.
Right. So, so you look at the Joe Nickel, quality guy, Greg Long. I don't know any of his other work, so I can't say whether it's quality or not. But all I can say is he created a hit piece because in all of these guys fail to mention that Philip Morris was sued for stealing copyrights on suits. That he was creating Barney suits. He was selling them, making a killing on them. And eventually it got notice from the people who created Barney, who turned around and sued him, and they won.
Right. They're not going to report that, Steve, because that doesn't play to their narrative.
Correct.
So we have a skeptical point of view here, but they're kind of cheating. They're kind of being skeptical on the Bigfoot part, but they're not being skeptical on their own information that they've received. Right. Can't do that.
Exactly.
It's a two-way street, not a one-way.
Yep. And let's talk about now. I will give Joe Nickel a little credit here. He does mention that there seems to be an inconsistency between Bob Heironimus's description of the suit and Philip Morris's description of the suit. According to Bob Heironimus, I think the suit was made of 4 pieces. According to Philip Morris, the suit was made of 5 pieces. Bob Heironimus said the suit stunk to high hell. Philip Morris said no. But you see, here you have these 2 guys in this picture conspiring, right?
Yeah.
This shows you how fake they are. They're describing different suits. Yet Heironimus gets on the bandwagon that, okay, this is where the suit came from, right? Yeah. To let him make a suit and then dress up and walk in it, right? So if it's not the same suit, that they're describing, then why would he jump on the bandwagon? And this is all misinformation. This is the hoax right here, folks. You have two different suits being described. You have two different numbers of pieces to the suit. And there's no proof that Morris ever made this suit. He made some really cheesy looking gorilla suits.
Right. Look nothing like Patty.
Right.
Also,
now,
go ahead.
What's that, Chris?
I was fixing to say we have an issue with Bob's Heironimus' story. So go ahead.
And here it is. Here it is. You know, in the original story, was written by Cal Korff, who jumped on it. And Bob Heironimus does the deed, packs up the suit, puts it in his mother's car, but he doesn't talk about. See, here's where the incongruity happens, right? He doesn't talk about how he got the suit out of the area, right? There's no mention of the suit. He says, oh, I packed the suit up in the car. Well, how'd you get it out of the area? Did you put it on the back of a horse? Did you walk out with it? Nothing. That's problem number one. The story is not complete. Problem number two is he says he goes home and he goes to bed after he's done. And then his mother, and of course, right now they're all, pardon the expression, but they're all trying to milk the teat, right? Yeah. They're all trying to milk the teat. And the mother says, oh, yeah, he came home and he had this suit and it smelled horrible. And they all consistently say it smelled horrible, right? From his and allegedly his mother, Bob was asleep. He didn't show his mother until after he had gotten up because his mother had asked him about it, which isn't that kind of screwy? You know, okay, there's the car. Okay, Bob came back with the car. Let me check the trunk.
Yeah, let me go look in the trunk before you
look in the trunk. Right. Let me just look in the trunk. Right. And then, you know, his mother explains it to him. They open up and he shows her the suit. But then the nephew sees it. And then the brothers claim to have seen it. And they all said it stinks, which is in direct contrary
to the report.
Contrary, thank you very much. Contrary to what Mr. Heironimus said, that it was a brand new suit.
Yes.
All right. So none of this makes sense. And I, as an investigator, would know automatically that these stories don't match up. They don't belong together, number one. And number two, I have some doubts about Mr. Heironimus' story because there are key pieces missing to it. Of course, later on, as you see on the left-hand side, Bob Heironimus would say before he went home, he stopped off in this bar and showed everybody in the bar.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Now we're stopping at a bar. Right. Yes, we're stopping at a bar now rather than going home.
Right. Because you know what? Bob probably went into that bar and said, hey, can you just verify my story with this guy, Greg? He's being played. You know, and the first thing, if Greg Long had any investigative chops, you know, he heard somebody bad mouthing, you know, Roger Patterson. Let's face it. You know, not people look to Roger Patterson as a hero.
Yeah.
But you know the old saying, be careful who you meet sometimes, because sometimes your heroes don't turn out to be who you are. Yeah. What was Roger Patterson a slick guy? Was he, was he a hustler and stuff like that? I think he was. I think he had a lot of business deals, and a lot of business deals went bad because he was the kind of guy that was trying to do it on his own. He didn't want to punch that clock 9 to 5.
Right.
Right. So what happens is you get enemies.
Sure.
So Greg Long floats into this and starts asking around. And he bumps into this guy that doesn't like Roger. He may have turned around to a dozen people. He may have talked to a dozen people. Right. And Everybody might have said good things about Roger, but as soon as he finds that negative one, now I'm going to bring this person to the front. Now I have a story. Now I have a story.
Yeah, that's
and then you're going to, well, of course, somebody doesn't like, how does a reporter get his sources? He talks to this guy, doesn't like Roger Patterson. Oh, you ought to talk to so-and-so, or you ought to talk to so-and-so. And of course, you're going to have all these people start bad mouthing. Now, Greg Long has tunnel vision, right?
That's it.
Right.
He found the witness, the witness he needed,
and he puts together two stories that don't match: Philip Morris and Bob Heironimus, right? And that just shows you the bias right there. You the bias right there. Because as an investigator, but like, wait, somebody's not telling the truth here, if not both of them, right?
Yeah. Now,
we have a guy, Philip Morris, who likes jumping claims. I mean, it'd be nothing for him to steal a Barney suit, right? And make this suit and then eventually get sued for it, right?
Yeah.
What's jumping on this claim? Oh, that was my suit. No evidence whatsoever to support it. But this guy has shown clear dishonesty. Now, Roger Patterson, conversely, was, charged with theft of that camera because he failed to return it. But from my understanding, the charges were dropped because he said, because either he paid it off or somebody took care of it for him.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the full story behind the camera, but I would bet
and that is exactly right. Dirt on people sells papers.
Yes,
exactly right.
Yeah. Well, there was another issue too during the big remake with the new Philip Morris suit. When they went to try to find the film area, Bob Heironimus did not know where the film area was.
Right. Exactly.
And they said, well, they tried to explain it away as, well, it's been several years and, his memory may have faded. Well, I call bull. Yeah. Because in sometime in 1986 or 1987, I was fishing up La Luz Canyon and a bear stepped out of the brush across the creek, and I can take you to that exact spot. But I haven't lived there since 1988 or so. But I can take you to that exact spot. Yep. Exactly. So I'm not buying he couldn't remember where the film area was. I'm buying that, or I'm betting he never knew where it was to begin with.
And who does a job for $1,000? Which, like I say, let me take a look at that for a minute.
Well, at the time, that was a lot of money.
Right. Well, let's take the official look at what $1,000. Let's verify.
I thought that was right, Mick. Yeah. His brother-in-law paid it off or gave him the money. Yeah. Wasn't sure, though.
So, $1,000 in 1967 was roughly the equivalent to $7,960. $7,960.
That's a good chunk of change. Yeah.
And even if the suit, which I have the article, but I swore that Morris said that he was withholding it because he owed him $1,000 because of the modifications and everything. But $400 in 1967 is how. Sorry, you got to look under the much today. And
it's the inconsistencies with Bob Heironimus' stories.
So here's $495 in 1967. How much do you think it's worth today? Is the equivalent to about $3,999, $4,000.
That's a lot of money.
Right. So here's a guy that's got no money. That is his partner, Bob Gimlin, is funding this trip is paying $4,000 for a suit when he's got no money.
Right.
And then he's offering to pay this guy $8,000 to play the role. $12,000 pretty much in today's money. That's a big payout for a hoax.
But, these guys knew each other. So that much is true. Bob Heironimus knew Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson.
But everybody probably knew everybody.
Well, from the area, yeah, I'm sure they did.
Because Yakima, that whole area was not, it wasn't a very, heavily popular area, small town. Right. Everybody knew everybody. In 1967, again, there was, a different time where people knew people. People would meet people. There would be events, social stuff like that. You bump down somebody in the diner. You bump into somebody at the post office. You bump into somebody at the store or the general store. Or, and if you're a cowboy or you're doing, that kind of stuff, guess what? You're going to meet a lot of people. And Roger was a businessman. And of course.
Sure. Now, there was a connection.
Now here's the other interesting thing that I want to bring out real quick is how come nobody ever dismisses the credibility of Bob Gimlin? How come Greg Long, right, and Cal Korff and Joe Nickel never attacked the character of Bob Gimlin? You know why? Because he's alive and he can fight back.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to demure a dead person, a long dead person.
Well, what I think about it that it happened is that they knew each other, and it was reported that Patterson or Gimlin, one, had borrowed one of Heironimus's horses.
Right.
And I think it was I can't remember. I think it might have been Chico. I'm not certain, but they had one of Bob.
Right, Chico, correct.
They had one of his horses while they were out, but that was not an uncommon practice at that time.
Right. Now,
especially if you were training a horse for somebody, you wanted to take it out on a trail ride,
You see, in looking at this picture, we have, we look at some of these negatives at the Patterson Gimlin. We don't shy away from them. No. For years, I wondered, how did they get the film? And Bob answered that question for me when I met him back in 2012. He said, well, Al knew somebody at some photo processing lab up in Seattle. And then Tom Steenberg actually found the actual film lab that did the processing for him. Right. And it was indeed somebody that Al Delatly knew.
Yes, and he was a businessman. He had connections. Right. If he needed to get something done on the weekend, you can bet it got done.
Right.
But when you come up with a theory like this, and you're out to prove the Patterson Gimlin film a hoax, if you have enough tunnel vision and you can find the right type of witnesses, you can write your book.
Right. Well, the issue is the difference between an investigator and an investigative journalist is a journalist sometimes has that tunnel vision ability. They find something and they're going to tunnel vision on it. A professional investigator, okay, this is a possibility. We're going to look at this side, but we're also going to look at this side. But the first thing we ever do is, okay, I have a witness that says this about this according to that. Let's look at the witness. Right? What does the witness's story sound like? And what it is that the skeptics are so tunnel visioned, they're giving Bob Heironimus a pass for his inconsistent statements and some lacking part in some areas which lacks it. And because let's face it, as if we look at it from a criminal psychology point. If we look at it from a criminal psychology point, because committing a fraud is committing a fraud, right? Whether it's a criminal fraud or a non-criminal fraud, the machinations in the mind are all the same. So you just hoaxed this. Would you drive to a bar and then show everybody in there? No.
No
No.
way. No way.
I'm getting $1,000, and when this is settled,
Right.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm getting 8 large in today's money. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Exactly.
Right. And then I'm going to tell my mother, oh yeah, I hoaxed this film. No, you're going to say, oh, I just did we did a gag on somebody. I gotta, you wouldn't say I did something that deceives people, right? You would not say that.
Well, and another thing, if Patterson paid $8,000 for equivalent for this suit, or even $4,000, whatever the equivalency is, why is he going to let that suit out of his possession?
Right.
He should know at that point. He's going to know that if anybody sees this suit, that's going to bust his whole thing wide open. His whole hoax is going to be exposed before it ever has a chance to start.
Digger, I'm not familiar with Yakima. Yakima actually is a very big city. I do not, although Bob Gimlin lives in Yakima now. I'm not sure where Patterson lived, to tell you the truth, but I knew, whatever the case was, that even tells me more that Greg Long searched for people that wanted to badmouth Roger Patterson, because he acts like, oh yeah, I talked to this person and they said that, and then I interviewed this person and they said this about Roger Patterson, and they said this about Roger Patterson, unrelated to the Bigfoot film, mind you. But that to me is an issue when you start having all these witnesses without drawing the lines to where did you find these witnesses. If it is indeed if they indeed lived in Yakima proper, which had a population of that size, which is 43,000 roughly, one would think that somebody is feeding him this bits of information to find these witnesses, right? He just didn't walk the street. Hey, do you know Roger Patterson? Hey, do you know Roger Patterson? Especially like 30 years after the guy's dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, a very, very big, a very big thing to me there is a lot of that makes no sense at all to me.
The only thing I knew about Yakima was they had a company there that made fishing baits, fishing lures, and it was called Yakima Bait Company. And the reason now that stuck with me is because when I was a kid, I sent off a self-addressed stamped envelope to get their catalog.
Right.
Sure did. That was back in the days before internet, when you actually had to use the mail.
Now, let me bring you to another whole point. If you're going to hoax a film, why would you hoax Prince too? Why would you hoax Prince as well? We see lots of videos today, and we have a lot of experience in looking at hoax films. Never do we see both. We see hoax tracks, and then we see hoax films. We never find them both together.
Right.
Now, this brings up the Paul Freeman film. And I'm working on something new, some new pieces of information. So I'm going to withhold any evaluation of that until I get to digging into it. Now I'm kind of on the fence about Paul Freeman. I'll explain that why in a future show. Well, yep.
Oh, that's a thought.
All right.
The Jim says, Steve, is there a relationship between Sasquatch activity and the lack of cell phone coverage other than remoteness?
No, I don't believe so. For example, there's been a lot of roadside crossings and stuff like that that are in areas that have cell phone coverage.
Yeah.
So if you look at it as a whole, not really, no.
Well, the more remote area would probably be it. Yeah. If you had an area that's so remote that you can't get a cell signal, that'd probably be a good place to start looking.
Right.
Just because of the remoteness, I think you hit it on the head, Jim.
Yeah. So yeah,
in Kentucky, we I don't know, the cell signal here has been getting better. It used to be like you could be in town and have one bar, but now it's getting pretty good.
Right. So that's my thoughts on this is that, now you're creating a whole nother set of hoax. And why don't they do that? Because, number one, now you have two pieces of evidence to be criticized and scrutinized.
It could be debunked.
And if one is found to be fake, the other one will be found, the other one will automatically be gaslighted to being fake.
Yes.
So you wouldn't take that chance, not after spending $12,000 allegedly in today's money to create this hoax.
And how would you know to make a fake trackway with the presence of evidence of mid-tarsal breaks? No, you would not know that.
Right. There was a lot of stuff that
hadn't been proposed at the time. That was Dr. Meldrum proposed that. It's interesting.
And there was so much more too, like the way Patty turned would be more of a natural thing. Of course, we see Bob Heironimus do it, but he already has the blueprint to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you know what my real feelings on it is? Roger agreed to pay Bob Heironimus money. I have no doubt, but it was for the loaning of Chico, not for making a film. I think so. And when Roger stiffed him on that, he had that feeling for him the rest of the life. Because you know what? Do you just let somebody borrow your horse? I don't know. Maybe he offered, I need an extra horse. Can I? Right?
Right.
So I think that may be the motive behind it. Is he's mad at Roger Patterson, and the way to get at him since he's dead and make himself a little money and make himself a little fame is to take the fame that Roger had gotten off of that because he owed him money for Chico's little affair.
Yes, but remember, let's remember, Bob Heironimus took a lie detector test. Remember?
Let's remember, Roger Patterson took a lie detector test, and they both passed.
Yes.
So figure that out. The one thing that I will say this is that Bob Heironimus took a lie detector test for a television show.
Yes.
So how, if a television show wants to make right, yeah, if they really want to stomp on a guy who's dead, mind you,
right?
Because guess what? You can't sue somebody. A person that's dead can't sue you for libel, right? Right?
Yeah. That.
Let's face it. That show could have been skewed too.
I'm starting to think it may have been. Yeah.
Right. Because that way, how many shows have we found that have been, muddied waters? Huh, season 1 of Expedition Bigfoot. Oh, we're at the Antoine Ranch. Oh, no, we're not. We're way out in remote Colorado. Well, that's kind of right, but it's not really true.
Right. But see those.
So I don't put nothing past television.
Those that are in the Bob Heironimus camp, though, say Bob passed the polygraph exam. Yet that's because they don't know
No,
or
Bob
learned
Heironimus, yeah.
that Roger Patterson also passed one, and you
Right,
have the magazine article.
right, and he did it for the magazine article,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Because they actually wanted to test his veracity. They were going to run the
yeah.
story if he passed.
Right,
If he didn't pass, they were going to hose him,
right, exactly.
right?
And what did he do? Did he back down from taking the lie detector test? No,
Right.
he said, "Of course I'll take one," and he did, and he passed, and they ran the story. So that's kind of interesting.
Right. So, you know what? They're tied on lie detector passes, so we can put that aside as irrelevant.
Well, one thing's for certain: somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. We got to figure out which one it was.
Well, I can tell from just Heironimus' story who's lying.
I can tell that he has lied. Yes, he has. Oh, okay. Yeah, the inconsistencies with Heironimus' story are prove that he has one for stretching the truth.
Right.
Now, we do have a little bit about evidence against Roger Patterson, though. Him not taking the movie camera back. But now that is understandable. That is understandable.
But let's hold up on that.
Mm-hmm.
That is irrelevant to this situation.
True.
If anything, that just proves he doesn't have money.
True.
Right?
He understood the importance of the camera.
Right.
Didn't have the money to buy the camera at that time. I guess he figured he would get it. They probably started the civil action prior to him getting any money for this film.
Right.
Which now he did make money. We got to look back at that. He did make money.
Right.
He did make money with the film.
So my point being is how much money did he make though? Because really, he got some money. Well, by that time he had passed on. Right? Remember, he was only alive for 5 years after the film was made.
January 72, he died.
Right?
Yeah.
January. So not even. And one could think he was sick, at least for the 6 months prior to that, his death.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we only have a period of 3 years before he was able to make money on that. Yeah. So how much money did he really make off of it? He didn't make boatloads.
No,
he didn't move Patricia out to a mansion up on the hill, right?
Right.
So
he didn't have that much time.
Bullstein.
He didn't have 3 years, Steve, because what he did, he signed a contract with BBC, and the BBC made a documentary about Bigfoot, America's Abominable Snowman.
Right.
All right. Now, he didn't get paid a lot of money for that.
No.
But he did.
Because guess what? Guess what? I know television.
Yeah. 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 He didn't get a lot of money.
You don't get paid for a lot for anything.
Right. But under the contract, they did agree to let him. He was authorized to use their documentary, anything they made, to do his own documentary, and that's what he did. He had a documentary that he showed that presented his film, and that is the film that he went around to theaters and showed, and he got paid for.
Right.
At some point, he was doing talks after the showing and doing question and answer sessions with the audience. But now I think this was playing in multiple theaters because there were high 20, low 30 some copies of this film being shown around all along the West Coast. And I did get a report. Let's see, who was it? I can't remember the guy that reported this. I'll take it with a grain of salt. But it was being shown east in the States as far east as Michigan. So in these theaters. But, then you get into another issue. Supposedly it was reported that during one of these question and answer sessions, he had a man on stage with him and claimed he was Bob Gimlin.
Right. Yeah. And that's a little shady. Again, that's a little bit of a shady thing.
Yes, it is. But
that's because Bob Gimlin did not want money from this.
Exactly.
And that's a great point, Ristel, is that to this day, Bob G is not financially well-off man. When Hijack got permission to offer him $1 million to admit it was a hoax, Bob didn't even blink an eye and said it was not a hoax.
You can't buy integrity.
I've looked that man right in the eye.
Exactly.
You know,
integrity. Not everybody's integrity is up for sale.
Right. Haven't I heard that one before?
With Bob, though, you know, him staying out of it, and I'm certain that Roger had asked him to maybe travel, go on the road, and make some public appearances, and I'm certain that Bob probably refused that, or he made it known at the beginning that he wasn't willing to do that kind of thing. And I don't know. We could ask Bob himself, you know, what the deal was with that. But there was a report that Patterson did have somebody there playing the part of Bob Gimlin during at least some of the shows.
Well, according to Mick, he said they got $20 a head for those showings. I don't know. $20 is a lot of money. $20 in that doesn't sound really all that correct, because let's see how much $20 in 1967 is how much today.
Yeah, it wasn't just the show wasn't showing in just the movie documentary wasn't showing in just one theater. It was high 20s to low 30s.
Yeah, I mean, that's $159 a head, you know, in today's money. That's a bit much.
Yeah.
You know, maybe half that, maybe $10 a head, maybe $5 a head. I can't see that in 1967. Right. Remember, minimum wage was like $1 an hour back then. Actually, let me check.
Yeah. And that's a good point, Mick. Mick said, I heard Bob tell the story himself. Yeah. The Bob Gimlin has been consistent and remained consistent over the years. And he's very careful to do that. And that's another thing that I like about when Bob Gimlin is talking.
Okay. So I know you heard Bob Gimlin tell that story himself, but Bob wasn't there. Remember, Bob didn't go on the road show with Roger.
Right.
So he's getting secondhand information.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you know, $20.
That would have been a lot.
In 1967, people were making the minimum wage in 1967 was $1.40 an hour. So you would think that would be like almost half a week's work, just to go see this by yourself.
Well,
so I think that number is inflated. Maybe he was charging what $20 was today back then.
May have been.
Right?
Yeah.
May have been. But that sounds a bit high. Otherwise, you would get nobody in the door. But very few people in the door.
When Bob Gimlin relays his series of events as it happened, he's very concise. And I've even heard interviews where he would stop the interviewer, the questioner, and he would say, well, no, wait a minute here. Now, I don't want to say anything that's wrong. You know, this is the way it happened. And he would, each word for word, and he would basically repeat the same thing.
Uh-oh, Steven's got a sneeze coming up.
Oh, bless you in advance.
It's going to strike when I'm not expecting it. Yeah, I just don't see it being that much money.
No.
Because You think about it, because Ancient Aliens, the talk, and they had Giorgio on there, and what's it, Doctor, the guy on Skinwalker Ranch,
I've not watched
Travis. Travis. They had him. They had Nick Pope. I mean, you're talking about a panel of 4 people talking for several, a few hours on a topic in Q&A.
Right.
And, doing presentations and then taking a Q&A. And that was only $75 today's money to go see that. I didn't go but
with the film though, I think the most money was made from it because through the 1976.
Oh, and just so you know, that $75 back in 1967 would have been $10.
Yeah.
So sorry.
The 1976 movie Sasquatch: The Legend of Bigfoot. That's where the film was featured, and I think that's where it made the most money. But at that time, 1976, Roger had been dead for 4 years.
Yep.
So the money, basically, most of the money went to.
Pete H asks the $1 million question. So was Patty real or not? I'm gonna lean on real. I always leave that with I would say with a 10% chance of being wrong. I'm going to lean that Patty was real. Chris, I lost your volume.
Sorry, babe. I muted out there because I was typing in trying to get the name of Ron Olson.
Right. Ron Olson, yeah.
The Legend of Bigfoot. He was the one that cashed in big time on the Patterson Gimlin footage because that movie, and I went to see it when I was a kid. The theater was packed, and we're talking Glasgow, Kentucky. Okay. Well,
so we're going to take a quick poll in the live chat tonight. So everybody that's listening, even those you lurkers, if you want to chime in.
We love our lurkers too.
We need in capital letters an answer to this question. Do you believe the Patterson Gimlin film is real? Type in yes if you believe so. Type in no if you think it's fake. Do it now, and we'll take that. We'll give it 5 minutes, and we'll give you our poll result.
Yeah. There's some way.
Susie, -5 off for you. You didn't put it in caps.
It's okay, Susie. We know.
I'm just teasing.
We know. It's okay.
Hello, William. Good to see you. See, now we're seeing Little Mixer. Good to see you. See, we're starting. Yeah. Angel Nolan's been hiding in chat too. Look at her. Angel was lurking. Again, another person with no caps.
No, dude, I do it too. I go to shows sometime and let it play in the background and listen.
Rio Bird, hello. Good to see you. The lurkers are coming out.
There's Roy.
We love you, lurkers, by the way, but it's good to see you.
Roy Longley, I think, is their designated president or representative of the lurkers.
Roy. Yes, that's right. Roy is the designated leader of the lurkers.
But yeah, I do.
He is the lurker leader. Oh, we have one no so far. Bum, bum, bum. That's okay, Lil Kilroy. You're all entitled to your opinions.
Wait, that's right.
I'm not going to sit there and beat you over the head if you don't believe it's real or not, just because it's against what I believe. That's fair. That's fair. You have your reasons.
Yes,
fair.
Well, I can't really say I like it, but there's some things about it that I don't like. So, I'm still on the fence. I can go with I like it, but that's about as strong as I can do.
No, they would not, Mick. No, they would not. They wouldn't be in chat. They'd all take screenshots is what they would do.
Yes, and screenshots and probably attempted extortion. Oh no. But
William Wiley, great question.
Do you see a similarity between the doubt of Todd Standing video and that of Patterson Gimlin?
No, I don't. The reason being is I've extensively looked at Todd's Blinky video, and with people don't or the one running up the hill. What you don't understand is that I have an inside line to what he was doing. I have a source that was close to Todd Standing at the time of all of this going on. And it is clearly and factually a hoax. The last one, the one with the painted face there with the little, that was his father. And that's why it was only from there up, because if the nose came up, you would definitely tell. But what gave it away was the moles on the side of the eyes that he had.
Well,
but as far as Blinky, his animatronic blinking Bigfoot, number one, has the eyebrows. But when you blink your eyes, your eyebrows don't move. That's number one. Number two is that it originally came out in 2013 as a picture. And that was layered. And we ran an error level analysis test using the original photograph. Right? So that's number two. And number three.
Tell that.
Right? And number three was the fact that the inside source actually said he that was an animatronic that he got to blink by, what they would do is they would either blow into a tube that would make the animatronics work. But yep, completely different. I know. I think, the similar Todd Standing stuff is if you know how he started in this field by telling this story of, and people forget this because they weren't around necessarily or he wasn't really on the radar then, but he was on my radar from day one. And the Bigfoot was in this only known by the First Nations tribe of a place called Sylvanic, which is a Latin term, not a Latin word, not a First Nations word. And the only way into Sylvanic, the valley of Sylvanic, is through this hole in a mountainside. And in 19 something, these three hikers went missing. And then you see these like second grade sketches of this one guy claiming that this was a guy missing. And he's also made claims that he collected boatloads of hair that just happened to be stolen. His house got burglarized and the hair was stolen. So no, completely different type of scrutiny for different reasons.
I think,
and the other thing, let me just add one more thing.
Right.
We see the Patterson Gimlin film. We have the who, what, when, where, and why. And all of Todd's stuff, we have none of that. None. Zip.
We have a detailed order of events and a detailed timeline that, Standing stuff does not have anything close to it. Right. And besides that, I think what I was going to say was I think it's a tragedy because what is Todd Standing's research, maybe some of it is legitimate. But
he has some damn good philosophies.
The problem is when he showed that Muppet face Squatch,
the Muppet,
the one with the suede skin or whatever, the Muppet,
felt. It looked like felt.
Skin, yeah, that's it. That you cannot look at that and tell me that's a Sasquatch. If you can, there's something wrong. that is a Muppet. That is a created thing.
So, William, I'm not asking you to trust anything right now. What I'm asking you is check your facts. I'm a big guy into listen. Go to my blog, Squatchdetective's blog. When you go in there, type in the word Todd Standing, or check out the 2 videos on the channel I have about Todd Standing. Maybe that we'll see which is evidence versus just hyperbole. The stuff that you see in the attempts to debunk Patterson is all hyperbole. There is no evidence at all. There's no suit, either by Heironimus, who claimed he was who had the suit. There is no suit by Philip Morris. There's no receipts from Philip Morris saying he was paid by Roger Gimlin. In other words, there was no bill of sale. So that is the only claim and there. What we see from Roger and Bob Gimlin is a long-term 57 years of being consistent with the who, what, when, where, and why. With Todd Standing, we have the who. We don't have the why. We don't have the where. We don't even have a time or date of any of his stuff. Any of his stuff. You know, do you ever see Todd say, well, on such and such date, I was in this forest, and at such and such time, I got this picture of a Sasquatch? No, you don't see that. So
there's no timeline on any of his evidence.
Right. And a picture is only good as the story behind it. That's to begin with. But if you take a look at all of Todd's pictures, because all of them were pictures too. Blinky was released as a picture for a couple of years before, and then it was released as a video as if it was something new. It was not. It had been out there for a couple of years. And again, eyes don't cause the eyebrows to blink. And that's what it did. It did that. It's two separate motions.
Yeah. Again, you know, to me, I think it's a tragedy.
Right.
Because he may have been doing some really good work.
Right. And having the original picture that was taken of Blinky, right? I could tell you what time it was taken, what date it was taken, the focal length, the aperture, the ISO speed, the type of camera that was used, which I managed to get all off of that picture, which was posted in raw form on the Calgary Sun newspaper when they were doing an article about him. Right. They actually posted the raw photograph to the website. Whereas if you get it off of Facebook or anything like that, you're not going to get the real image because Facebook processes all that stuff. Instagram processes all that stuff. So,
here we go. William Wiley says, well, explain Dr. Meldrum's and Bindernagel's endorsement.
Very well, I will. Dr. Meldrum never endorsed any of his pictures. Neither did Dr. Bindernagel understand Dr. Bindernagel wording to that. What Todd has, I believe, is authentic portraits of a Bigfoot, not pictures, portraits, right? So what is a portrait versus a picture? That's number one with Dr. Bindernagel. Dr. Meldrum, he hasn't endorsed it. Never. He's been, you know, he was kind of invited onto the Les Stroud show with him, and then, you know, but he got off that wagon a long time ago. And he was kind of not in the know about some of Todd's work necessarily. He's never really, you know, but he wanted to see if he had anything, and Todd actually took him into an area that is known for having activity.
Yeah. William.
No, William, you're all good. You're all good. You're all good, brother. You're good here, man.
We also always recommend everyone remain skeptical. Right. It's good to have a healthy dose of skepticism. It is.
And then we had that YouTuber go to visit Standing and do a video with him going squatching with Standing. And he cuts away to a video where Todd was away from him and says, yeah, there's a pair of Sasquatch gloves in the back seat of the car. And then he actually,
that's amazing.
And to the trolls, what they were saying, oh, that kid's stupid. He doesn't, wait, hold on. He asked Todd about it, and he just records the audio portion of it. And Todd admits there were gloves in the back seat of his truck.
Sure.
Oh, they were a gag gift. They were a gag gift from my brother-in-law.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That's funny because in his documentary, Discovering Bigfoot, here's a field and you see an apple sitting there and you see a hand come in and grab it. What a coinkydink. So.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, you know, don't be telling me about your experiences in Sasquatch and then show me a picture of a Muppet.
So there's a lot a lot of shady stuff that Todd's been, I mean,
if you show me,
like I said, he has a lot of good. He has some interesting theories, some of which are sound.
Sure.
It was him that very first brought me the idea of Sasquatch not burying their dead, because if they buried their dead, we'd be finding their bones, and I thought that was really a good idea. Anytime, William. Welcome aboard. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We love questions, even tough ones.
Yeah.
I love being on the hot seat. In case people don't understand, the tough questions is what fires me up. I don't get mad. So great questions, Willie. I'm glad you asked them. Yeah. That's my take on that. But let's get back to the good old in here. So, I really think that I lean more towards it's authentic because you have all of that, because you have somebody that's alive today. And if you look at the skeptical attacks on the film, it's all on Roger Patterson, and they omit Bob Gimlin was ever there. They omit that, right? They don't even acknowledge Bob Gimlin normally.
Yeah.
Right. Because not once have I ever heard the skeptics say anything about the dispute between Roger falling on his horse falling on him versus him, just getting off the horse kind of slop, right? We never hear the skeptics talk about that because they don't want to talk about Bob Gimlin. Because when they bring in Bob Gimlin, then they have to bring in somebody credible into the picture, or somebody that has a pristine reputation, right? They like ignoring him because they can pick on Patterson due to the hatchet job by Greg Long. Yeah. For the sake of people's eyesight, Mick, that will be never.
No, Mick. No, bud.
And that question was about when I'm going to do the Speedo charity calendar. Never.
But, another one of the things about the Patterson Gimlin film,
I don't want to be responsible for a ton of people's blindness.
Another one of the things that I like about the PG film, Bob reported that the reason why Patty made that turn to look at him was immediately after he crossed the creek with his horse. And that plays into the behavior you would expect from a wild creature. He crossed the, it might have been thinking it was okay as long as he's on the other side of the creek. As soon as he crosses the creek, okay, now we're doing a double take here.
Yeah.
What's going on back there?
Let me comment on Bristol's comment. Going back to the standing, Meldrum was surprised to learn he had 100% sighting while withstanding. LOL. Well, I wouldn't say it's 100%. I wouldn't say it's 100%. So,
well, again, whatever Standing has produced is in question because of, to me, this is my opinion, because of the Muppet Squatch.
Right. Because of the Muppet Squad, you mean?
Yeah. Well, this one particular Muppet Squatch, okay, that did it for me, right? I've seen these creatures in the face. I know what they look like. They don't look like a Muppet.
No.
They're not pretty, and that's all I'm going to say about that. They're not cute. We're not talking Jen from the Dark Crystal.
And that's right, Boris. It's Todd putting words in Jeff's mouth. Absolutely. And if anybody knows, Jeff, he's starting to come out a little bit more. The doc is starting to come out a little bit more and start taking swings now. So, and that's a good thing. Back then, when he was hanging around with Mr. S, he was a little more meeker about, taking a stand against people personally. So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's roll into more positive stuff. We're talking about Patterson Gimlin film tonight. But thank you, William, for those questions. I appreciate that. I appreciate you listening, and hopefully you'll look into some of those videos that we had posted, and that may change your mind a little bit if you think alternately to the way I think.
One of the things that gets me about the Patterson Gimlin film is different places you'll look on the internet. Some places will say that this has been hoax. This has been proven a hoax because of Ray Wallace. Now, I don't think Ray Wallace had anything to do with this one, but
Well,
a little confusion on the writer's part, I think, is what.
Yep. In 2003, ABC News on AOL, when AOL was a thing, had erroneously reported that the Patterson Gimlin film was a hoax because on his deathbed, he admitted to it to being a hoax. And they had completely messed up and convoluted two stories, the Ray Wallace story.
Yes.
And it even went on to say that Patterson had died in 1994. And unfortunately, that's when Ray Wallace had died, not Roger Patterson. And they had muddled the story. And in fact, Ray Wallace never admitted anything on his deathbed either. His family found the tracks in the shed, or the stompers in the shed when after he had passed and they were cleaning some of his stuff out. So yeah, there. Yep.
Well, I watched one interview with Ray Wallace's wife, and she said that she thought he had planned on going a lot further than the stomper tracks because she had found remnants or part of a suit that he had been creating. That would be a dangerous thing to do, especially tromping around in the Pacific Northwest with a suit on, because there's a lot of people out there that are not, that haven't had that conversation like Roger and Bob did, and, decided not to shoot the creature unless they felt threatened, or in self-defense.
And let me make a comment, and I don't mean it to be political or not, but it seems like journalists don't like fact checking when you're fact checking them.
Right.
Because I had written to ABC AOL News to the reporter directly. And there was another article about 6 or 7 months ago that wrote a similar piece. And neither reporter ever got back to me again. It never retracted, never corrected, never did anything. They don't care. It's a piece just to fill up space. And they don't care about the accuracy. So that tells me a lot about journalism today, right?
Right.
When I was in school, one of the things I wanted potential as a career path was a journalist, an investigative journalist. I liked doing that. But my God, I see how it is today. And it's yellow journalism, no matter where you go. It's all yellow journalism. It's with a spin. It's not fact checked properly, especially when it comes to like stories about this. They don't care. The editors don't care if this is factually correct. Right. It's a piece to fill up some space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They want more readers. They'll say anything they can say to get.
And guess what? We see this turn of spin in the media about the same time the media turned on Sasquatch and started making fun of it. Right. In the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, 60s, and late 50s, 60s, and 70s, even before that, going back to the 1800s, reporters took these stories most of the time seriously. Right. But all of a sudden in the mid 80s, now we're going to start turning it around a little bit and we're going to start making fun of it. I remember back in 2003 doing a piece for the local news, and, it's like this. It's like, hey, we have people, so if I'm a reporter, and this is typically what you get, is if I'm a reporter, and I'm playing it like me, we have a report of, we're going now live to Steve Kulls out here on XYZ Mountain, talking about the Sasquatch. Let's go. Now it's there. Well, back then in 2003 was, and I'll tell you what, the reporter that was on scene was really ticked off at the anchor. Oh, we're going up to the mountain, XYZ Mountain, to talk about Bigfoot, right? So, that's the type of, pardon my French, bullshit we get a lot of times with the media. So, but the one thing that may start to change that a little bit, oh yeah, absolutely. William, I understand that. Yeah.
Agreed.
That's right. So, William, in case you're new to the show, which you may be, I am a former professional investigator. I will not make an accusation without having the receipts for that.
Steve brings the receipts.
I bring the receipts. So, even if you're the most dubious hoaxer of the world or dubious hoax promoter of the world, the Snapple guy, I will not condemn that person until I have those receipts right there. And sometimes that pisses people off because they want that instant gratification of me putting somebody that's not so popular down. But I wait, I get the information I have, and then I present it because you know what? That makes me bulletproof.
Yeah. It's nothing personal.
Right. It's nothing personal. I don't, people take hoaxers so personally. I don't. This is just work. This is the job. This is what we do. So no, awesome. William, I hope to see you more on the show, man. We want those tough questions. I love those tough questions. If you look at some of the, if you're new to the channel, we have a lot of stuff. We debunk a lot of stuff. So, and when we debunk stuff, it's with receipts. Like that whole Colorado train video. And little did we know that 10 years ago, the same video was taken from the same train in the same area. What a surprise. But again, how does it propagate? By the media spinning something sensational out. But it's amazing how they'll make fun of it in one turn and turn around and use it for clicks and views in another instance. So to me, that's pretty disingenuous.
Well, yeah, the media.
I will say this.
Reagan.
I do want to do a shout out to one of our local anchors, John Gray. He is a great anchor. He looks at everything honestly, fairly, and doesn't roll his eyes. John Gray, we love you, man.
Since the Reagan got rid of the fair and equal balanced reporting, our media has really went to.
Well, that's a 24-hour news cycle. You got to have content to roll. So what do? You put on, you have about 3 hours of news a day and you put on 21 hours of editorial.
Yeah.
Regardless of which side of the argument, and so then we wonder why everybody's so polarized. And that's because you get 23 hours worth of editorial and only 3 hours worth of news. If we only got 3 hours worth of editorial and 21 hours worth of news, I think we'd be a little less polarized. Just saying.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Well, and you're right, William. He said, yep, the media and hoaxers set back the gains the PG film gave us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Eventually, if one thing is holding true, which is kind of a good thing, is the media now is kind of stepping back a little bit, kind of reassessing the Bigfoot phenomenon. Right. And I say that, the reason why I say that is because of all the stuff that's coming out of the UAP phenomenon. Right? Here we are, again, a phenomenon that started in 1947, really, in the mainstream media, right? And here we are, how many years later? And now they're realizing, and even the government's like, hey, this is a real thing. So that's now they're sitting back going, oh, that's real. We've been making fun of that for years, and now it's a real thing. Right? Now they're kind of gun shy a little bit on the Bigfoot topic, because if they're wrong about that, about aliens of all things, could they be wrong about Bigfoot?
1947. Golly. That's a long time. And
well, Mick, I will say this. When the CIA co-opted all the MSN, that's when fake news began. No. The fake news began really in 1963, right after November 22. That's when the fake news began.
Well. Point of order.
But that's a topic for another. Yes, sir.
Yeah. We don't want to get it on the.
No. But that's a topic for another night.
Yeah. But Patterson Gimlin Film, yeah.
It's that time. We got to take us out.
Well, man, I appreciated this episode. I really liked the Patterson Gimlin Film. Here we are on the 57th anniversary. And to this day, this film has not been debunked. There have been attempts made. And some of these attempts were very, very well thought out to make Roger Patterson look bad. But it doesn't matter if Roger Patterson was a scumbag. That doesn't change the deal of the film. But anyway, I appreciated, doing this episode. And I want to thank everybody in chat, all our listeners. We appreciate you guys. I say it every time because I mean it, and it's true. You guys are the best audience we could ever hope to have. I love these questions. They're great. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us on Sunday nights. We appreciate you guys. And if it's your first time watching, hit the subscribe button, mash the like button, the thumbs up if you hadn't already. Pop it on the way out. And we appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Don't get me a Snapple.
And folks, I want to wish everybody a happy, safe week. We will catch everybody Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And by half of me, everybody have a safe, healthy, happy week. God bless and keep on squatching. We'll see everybody here Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on youtube.com/@Squatchdtv. We'll catch you all in a little bit. Check out Squatchdetective.com for all the latest info on where I'm going to be and anything else. Everybody, take care. We love you guys.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatchdtv. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member. And it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatchdtv. Keep on squatching.